to the 12th Man Podcast. Strap in for an hour of Boro chat. Up the Boro!
Get me vocals right. Good evening. Welcome to the 12 Man Podcast, live, uninterrupted, on Facebook Live, on the Red, and all the good places you listen to your podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, all the good stuff. Got me, Steve Jackson. I'm your host for the evening. Got Mr. John Cutler with me. Evening, good.
Evening.
You doing all right?
Yeah, all good, mate. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Jamie Dalgano is with us. Evening, Dally.
How are them boys, all right?
Yeah, we're doing good. We are just waiting for... Here comes one of our guests right now. This will be straight good, this one. So we have got some special guests on tonight. We are just waiting for John Don to appear. But he's kindly given the login straight away to one of our special guests who's happily agreed to come and talk to us. It's Mark Crossley, if you can see him. Evening, Mark, you all right?
How are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm not good. I've got cold. I've got kids here. Oh, God. I'm all right. I'm okay.
Good. Well, you've got an hour of absolute entertainment with us now. So,
all right. We'll have to see what crack is with kids because I'm on my own. I'm on my own with them.
Just bring them in. It'll be all right.
Yeah, one's 13, one's 6. So we'll see what happens.
No problem at all. We are just waiting for Jeff Winter, who's going to come in as well.
Okay.
He's going to talk about the your event on Thursday. I mean, do you want to start off straight with that? Obviously, what will you be talking about on Thursday night over in Eston?
I'll just do my script. Talk about like what it was like to work under Brian Clough at Forest. Yeah, it's that mainly it's my career working under Cloughie, like so.
Lovely. Well, I say keep them because we're going to talk about a couple of stories with Cloughie because everybody's heard them. Everybody's heard about all the stuff from under the cosh, all the good stuff. So, but we say we want to focus on your Boro career. So, but before we start though, Coach Dally, are we all right? We good?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, spot on, mate.
Dragging through this international break, counting down the days till normal football resumes.
I know. Before we speak about Boro, Mark, what made you pick Wales?
I got to 26 years old and I was playing well in the Premier League and I never got the shout. I never got into a training camp for England, and then I just got a phone call out of the blue because I got Welsh ancestry, granddad and grandmother Scottish, so I got a phone call from both.
Okay, fair enough. Because you've got under 21 caps as well, haven't you?
I had 3 England under 21 caps, yeah, but it wasn't an affiliated tournament. It was the Toulon tournament.
Oh, there you go then. See.
What swung you towards Wales, Mark? Just remind us who were the goalkeepers at Scotland and Wales at the time that you beat out. Was Andy Gorham still about at that time?
No. I don't know who was about at Scotland, to be honest. Neil Sullivan, I remembered, like, kind of went. I went Wales because Bobby Gould kind of convinced me that Neville Southall was about to finish. And I was the natural replacement, but unfortunately, I had some injury problems. I had a back operation, so I only played 8 times. And during that time, Paul Jones came in and he did very well. So that's why I only got 8 caps.
Because you mentioned him there, Mark. People talk about Peter Schmeichel and that as being the best goalkeeper in the Premier League era and Division 1 and whatever. For me, Neville Southall was absolutely top notch, equally as good as Schmeichel for me. How highly would you rate Neville? Would you say he was as good as Schmeichel, or would you say Schmeichel was the next level?
I thought Schmeichel was the best keeper in the 90s when I was about. He was. I think Peter was like more unorthodox, but Neville was more. More like solid. Like I thought Neville was up there. Yeah, it's a close one. Probably them two, close one. But Peter Schmeichel was my favourite. And never close second. But yeah, when I worked with him and trained with Neville and that, it was different class. Like, yeah, it was good, very good.
He was a bit of a character as well, wasn't he? How do you think Cloughie would have reacted to him sitting on the goalpost at Goodison Park if he was in charge of him at that time?
I don't think he'd have been too happy with it, to be honest. Yeah.
Right, our two other guests have popped in. Mr. John Donovan's with us. Evening, John Don, you all right?
Yes, yeah. Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, we're doing good, doing good. And
thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Mark, for joining us.
Absolutely.
No problem.
I was going to say, second time coming on. Mr. Jeff Winter's joined us again. Evening, Jeff, you all right?
Good evening.
How are we doing? You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Obviously, everybody knows Jeff Winter. We say countless amounts of Premier League games. We say made countless amounts of enemies as well. I'm sure Roy Keane still speaks highly of him these days as well. Obviously, big Boro fan, big Rangers fan. And we were just speaking to Mark there, Jeff, about the event he's doing on Thursday. Obviously, you're with him as well. Ted Hankey's there as well, if you fancy a giggle. Talk to us a little bit about, how the event came about, how things, why Eston, talk us through it.
Well, I've been on the after dinner circuit now this is the start of my 21st year. Spent most of it like Mark's doing now in great demand, touring the length and breadth of Britain. As I'm getting a little bit older, I'm trying to do a lot more in our area because these events, they help local charities, they help local sports clubs. And I've come to an arrangement with everyone at Eston Sports Centre, and this will be the third event we've put on, and we've just this week announced the fourth one for the back end of next month. And Mark, at the moment, it's so difficult to get hold of Mark because he won the national award this year for sports speaker, and we managed to tie up a date. And I'm hosting the event. And I just thought getting Ted involved would be absolutely brilliant because a lot of people, other than on the, on his podcasts, might not have had the chance to see him live. Now, I'm very, very fortunate. I've been to see him live, and he's hilarious. I don't know how Mark will take to this because Mark's worked with all the top comedians in the country on the after dinner circuit, but Ted is, let's say, typically Teesside. He's something unique.
I'm looking forward to it, Jeff.
I'm sure we'll have a laugh, a right good laugh. He'll ask a few of the questions as well. But no, these events, as I'm sure Mark will tell you, it's lovely to be back involved and talking to people, talking about our times in the game. As I say, I've had the pleasure of working with Mark on a few occasions, and some of his tales well, I wouldn't say some of his tales, all of his tales are hilarious, but some of them are actually legendary. So, personally, can't wait till Thursday night.
Definitely. You say, tickets are still available. You say to go and see these two. Obviously, we've heard Crossley's impressions of the great man himself. I'm sure a few of them will pop out on Thursday night as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
And a few surprises as well that Mark doesn't even know about yet.
Oh. I look forward to that.
Any close, Jeff?
I was going to ask a really stupid question there. I was going to say, am I all right to use a bit of language on here? But then I remembered we're all Boro fans. Let's just say Big Norm had a certain nickname referred to by Mr. Clough. He'll be no doubt mentioning it a few times. We've got a little bit of spice to add to that on the evening.
Lovely.
One of many nicknames that Cloughie gave him.
Oh, listen, there were so many. Even walking down the street now, people put their windows down the car, and that name that Jeff's on about. I can be walking my dog and the window will go down and I'll get that word shouted at me.
I'll be honest with you, Mark. My boy, he's 10 now, and he came up with the North Stand with us one game, and one of the lads was being called your nickname, and Monday morning, all I could hear from downstairs was my missus. I'd made him say that. I said to him, whatever you do, son, you can swear here, but not at home. And all I could hear from downstairs on Monday morning at 8:30 was, Jamie, why have I got a young Brian Clough in my front room? He didn't want to put his coat on for school. He told his mama. Yeah.
Wow.
So
speaking of that name, I'd love to say that name, but obviously we can't say that name. But
If anybody wants to know the name, you don't tell them. We won't say anything. We've only got a few tickets left for Thursday. If anybody wants to know, they're going to have to come along, and then no doubt they'll hear it during the course of the evening.
absolutely. But the question is, Mark, what made him come up with that nickname? Like, why did he think that was the name for you?
Your guess is as good as mine. That was just one of many, but that's the one that tended to come out quite a lot.
No, because I can imagine.
I've heard him call a few referees that as well, Jeff, to be honest.
Fair comment. I've been called a lot worse than that in my time. I was settled for that one.
Nah, it's just, it was part and parcel of the game and that then, like, you know, old school, and it wasn't something that bothered me at all. Like things like that are just, they're just normal things. But I never thought I'd be saying it on the after dinner circuit, but that's what happened. So let's tell the tale. You know, it's real life. You don't get it anymore. So that's why I like doing the job, because you don't get old school anymore. It's and I think I can't see any Premier League players on the after dinner circuit in years to come. So
or referees,
exactly, yeah. So it's something I enjoy doing, and I know you enjoy it as well, Jeff. And it's great to catch up like with referees and old players, ex-players, and we get a good night because we usually get to see a good comedian as well. So get paid for talking about football and having a good laugh. How can you beat that?
The sad thing, though, Mark, is as we talk to people, I know we're all getting older, but it's like listening to your granddad, because we're all saying the good old days when, you know, referees could try and referee games with man management. There was language flying about, no PC, and that was the way the game was. Nowadays, I mean, present day footballers, who's going to, well, if they need the money by the time they retire, they've done something sadly wrong in their lives. And are there any characters? Are there any tales to tell? And, you know, I don't think there will be in the future. So, you know, the next 5 years or so, we might see the end of an industry or the falling off of an industry that's been, you know, going for, long before you and I even started it.
Yeah, it's looking that way.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's such a shame as well, because I've been to a couple of the after dinner talks, you know, them sort of evenings, and some of the stories you hear. I say I went to the one that you hosted, Jeff, with Stuart Downing as well. I thought that was brilliant, nice. They say, you know, Stuart was so good. He was really honest as well. I didn't expect him to be as honest as he was, but he spoke really well. But what made you get into this sort of thing? I know it's obviously your 21st year in this now. What made you think I'm going to start doing this? You know, was it a case of you just love talking about the game as much as we do? Is it a mix of things?
Personally, I got into it by accident. It was a lot longer than 21 years ago. I was actually in an audience as a guest over in Darlington, and it was Paul Cross. You might not recall him. He's a Barnsley lad. Good player, and he played at both Hartlepool and Darlington, and his career came to an end relatively young age with a bad knee injury. So he moved into physiotherapy, and the club had given him a testimonial, and he had a testimonial dinner, and I knew Paul, so I took some guests along, and we'd gone for a few beers and a night out, as all the punters do. Emlyn Hughes, the late Emlyn Hughes, was the guest speaker, and there was a comedian, and it was a filthy night. I think just before Christmas, it was snowing, and the comedian had phoned up to say he was stuck and couldn't get there. So, you know, you're halfway through the evening. So one of the lads come across and said Emlyn had done his stint and was away. And it was probably about 10 o'clock and there was nothing else. And they said, Jeff, will you get up and do a few stories? You know, some of your recollections. And I hadn't a script or anything. So I just got up. And then at the end of it, they came across and gave me an envelope. I said, what's that? And they said, oh, well, that's what we're going to pay the comedian. You can have it. And I thought, hey, this mightn't be a bad bad way to go in years to come. And then, when I started it, like Mark, I'm sure he'll agree, when you lose the buzz of the dressing room, when you lose the involvement of being in the game, it's nowhere near as good, but it's second best, because when you're on a microphone, a comedian once said to me, there is nothing as good as making people laugh. And you do, if you do a quiet night and the audience are just listening, you do your act, but you're on a little bit of a low. But when the audience are responding to your stories and jokes and everything else, it brings you alive. And as Mark summed it up perfectly, we're meeting old friends, we're talking about the game that we all love, and it's an industry that we can make a living from. But more importantly, as I said earlier, the small events, they're not for a big company, they're not to make money for, as some events are now, they're done in theatres and the money making for companies. Whereas if you look round here, the number of junior football clubs, golf clubs, cricket clubs, everything that put these on to survive and, to let the kids play football. So I always think it's one of those nights where everyone is a winner. And I mean, I'm slowing down a little bit now because of, age and health issues I've had in recent years. But I love it. I still love it. And, you're meeting people. Last week I was speaking in Doncaster and thinking from a Boro angle. In the audience, there was Paul Ward, there was Trevor Wilkinson, and there was a local lad, Mark Hine, who was from Thornaby, but had a long professional career down your way. I think he was at Peterborough, he was at Scunthorpe. He had a good career. Unfortunately, he's not so well now. And Glenn Snodden was there, formerly of Everton. So, it was a good opportunity to have a natter with the people from our generation. And we raised a lot of money for charity. There's another young Crossley in the picture.
Hey, this is Bobby. Come and say hello, Bobby.
Hi.
It's Spider-Man today, aren't you?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Gordon Daddy's nearly
you've got
finished.
goalie gloves on as well.
He's got Spider-Man outfit on.
I fell into it by accident, and 21 years later, I'm still enjoying it. But I'm now doing a lot more MCing and hosting events. And we've got this one this week at Eston Event Centre, which it's for anyone that doesn't know, it's upstairs where the old Eston Labour Club used to be. But they've spent a fortune and they have brilliant events on there, not just sporting ones. And then the week after, I've got one at Stockton Town Football Club where we've got another well-known former footballer, Steve Howie. And Steve Howie's got a legendary story. We definitely can't use the words for that, I don't think, where there's youngsters listening. But, if anybody fancies that one, you go onto the Stockton Town website and, the funds from that, any profits that they make are going to be helping Stockton Town, and not just the first team who are doing very well. But, I think there's 42 football clubs, juniors, that run out of Stockton Town. So any money that they make at these events, for me, is going to the right places.
I doubt that HMRC are listening, but just to clear it up, 21 years ago, you didn't accept that envelope, did you, Jeff? You just left it and said you'd do it for free.
When you're in the public eye, and I get this, it annoys me actually, when people come up to you, brown envelopes and that. Yes, exactly. If you're working in this industry, where now everything's splattered over Facebook, social media, we're talking about here. We are all registered. We pay our taxes, and what? But you're never going to stop people passing comments like that. And if that's the funniest thing, if that was the funniest line, Norm and I could come out with, we wouldn't have lasted as long as we have on the after dinner circuit.
Oh, exactly. Matt, I do want to come to you. Obviously, there's a lot of Boro fans listening. I just want to take you back to when you first joined the Boro. Obviously, what were your memories of playing against the Boro? I mean, you played games against us before you signed for us. What made you think Boro was the next move, the right move for you at that time?
I had a choice at the time, so I didn't expect to leave Nottingham Forest because I've been there 12 years, but David Platt come in as manager and we didn't see eye to eye. And I'd agreed, I'd been speaking to Birmingham at the time because my contract was up, so I was on a free. Speaking to Birmingham, but my wife at the time, we had Ibs were doing very well up in Scotland, and Alex McLeish was manager, and he convinced me. And I went up round Edinburgh, and it was just something we fancied with the family. So I agreed a contract with Hibs. I was literally going to East Midlands Airport to fly up because I wanted a couple of days to think about what had been offered. We'd already made our mind up that Edinburgh was the place we wanted to go and try with the family. Hibs were always doing pretty well at the time. And I seen it as if I did well for them, I'd play for one of the big two in Scotland, So that's the way I looked at it. I came back to Nottingham, had a couple of days to think about it, and the phone rang, and it was Brian Robson. And he said, "Have you signed for Hibs yet?" And I said, "No." I says, "But I've agreed the contract." And I'm on my way there, literally on my way there to the airport to fly up, sign the contract. He said, "Tell him we've got a flat tyre. Get yourself up here and have a medical." So I went up to Middlesbrough. The wages were a lot better, so I won't lie. I knew football in the Northeast was, there's three very, very passionate teams, all doing very well at the time. It wasn't far from home for me, from where I was brought up. So, and I had 3 great years then. I made the right decision. Alex McLeish wasn't too pleased when I rang him to tell him that I wasn't. In fact, I can't mention on here either what he actually called me either. But I seen Alex a few years later at Gary Speed's memorial game in Cardiff, and I went up to him and I said, "Look, Alex, sorry about that." He went, "Big man, that's football." So Brian Robson sold it to me because I was an experienced goalkeeper. I'd played a lot of games in the Premier League, and I know they had Mark Schwarzer was top class. But I believe that if I got in, that I could stay in, and I did get in, and I did well. And then there was a rumour flying around that Mark had got written in his contract that if he was fit, he played and all that. And I kept 11 clean sheets in 23 games and got left out of the team as soon as Mark was back fit. And I felt a bit aggrieved by it because I felt like he didn't have to work hard to get his place back. I wouldn't have minded if things wouldn't have gone too well, but I performed very, very well while I was in the team. So, but I loved every minute of it. It's a great football club. Brilliant supporters. I lived in a lovely village called Rainton at the bottom of the A19, and it was 3 great years. I loved every bit, and Boro are a team that I'm really in my heart, So I always look to see if they're doing well because from the chairman Steve Gibson, the people up there, it was just a brilliant time in my career, and I was 30 years old at the time when I went there. So. Great club to go to towards the end of your career.
So how does a manager come to you and explain that, Mark? Because I've been following the club for about 35 years now, and that was as good a run of form of goalkeeping that I'd seen at this club. Yeah. How does a manager then come to you and say that you're out for Mark Schwarzer?
Well, what happened was it was Steve McLaren at the time who was manager. Brilliant coach, Steve, and our goalkeeping coach was Paul Barron, who was the best I ever worked with as a coach. So it was down to him as well that my form was good. And I just got told we're prepared for the game. Can't remember all the game we were playing when I got left out, but we're prepared for the game as I was in goal. And then when the team got announced on the Friday, I was left out. So as you can imagine, I wasn't young lad. I was an experienced pro. So obviously I wanted to see Steve to ask him why, because what's the problem? Why am I left out of the team? So I left the training ground. Paul Barron come to my house, and he said he just prefers Schwarzer at the minute. So fair enough. That's fair enough. But I couldn't get to see Steve for a couple of days. He wouldn't see me. But when I did get to see him, it wasn't pleasant, like, because I didn't feel as though I should have been left out. I felt as though Mark should have had to work harder to get his place back. So it weren't as though the team were dropping down the league. We were going up the table, like, you know. So, but man, the fancy Schwarzer, and Schwarzer was a brilliant keeper and a great lad. So that's just the way it is. That's the way football is sometimes. What really annoyed me is then I had a chance to go to Birmingham again with Steve Bruce, and the clubs agreed a fee of £500,000, and then the week after it was put up to 750, and then because my contract was coming to an end, and Birmingham in that week signed Mike Taylor, so it put a crush on that move as well. So, you know, I was a little bit aggrieved by the whole situation, as you can imagine, you would be, but it didn't stop me from being a good professional at the club.
Oh, brilliant! You obviously, with your time at Boro, obviously you'll have played with some characters. Have you got any standout stories of your time at Middlesbrough?
Excuse me, I've got a gig with him on Thursday night.
Anything that's not on your circuit.
You two are doing a better job than I am. I don't tell your punters if they want to hear his stories, come along on Thursday. I'm only joking.
No. I mean, the team was a good team. When I first went there, you got like Pally, you got Southgate, Colin Cooper, Hugo Ekiog, Ince, Joe Boateng, Alan Boxic, some top players, top players, and he's one of the best I've seen in Boxic. We didn't get the best out of him, and it was Juninho's second time around as well. So you can imagine some top players in there. One thing that does stand out, like, was involving Ince. Do you remember Jason Gavin?
Yeah.
Ince had a bit of a go at him, and I said, "Come on, you got to get him back." Like, and in the dressing room, the home team dressing room, they used to have like a radiator underneath the benches, like a pipe. And I gave Jason Gavin a Mars bar, and I said, "Put it in Ince's shoes and the Mars bar on there." So you can imagine after the game, we're just waiting for Ince to put his shoes on so we could have a good laugh, like. And I don't think Ince ever found out about it. He put his feet in the shoes, and there was a melted Mars bar in there. But that's just some of the things we get up to. We're big kids, you know. We're big kids as footballers. But
Mark, can I ask you the question?
Yeah.
Knowing what dressing rooms were like, are you sure it was a Mars bar?
It was a Mars bar, yeah. It was a Mars bar, yeah. There's only Windass that do something like that.
Exactly, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Windass
I'll
or
tell you a
Gaza.
story as well. I'd never met Dean Windass. Never met him. And he signed for Boro. I was already there. He rang me up. He got my number off Colin Cooper, and he said, big man, he said, "I've signed for Boro. We might as well share the driving. I'll come to your house in the morning." Okay, here's your postcode. So next morning, an hour earlier than when he said he'd be here, 8 o'clock, my daughter come running upstairs and said, Dad, there's a strange man in the house." So I ran down. I'd never ever met Dean Windass. I knew of him. I'd never met him. So I ran downstairs. He's in the kitchen. He's switched the kettle on, and he's got 2 slices of bread in the toaster. And I says, "All right, do you know?" He goes, "Oh, nice to meet you." He says, "You don't mind, do you?" I says, "No." He says, "Have you got any beans?" Typical Dino, sat there in my house. I've never met the guy before. Frightened my daughter to death.
A couple of years ago, I was working with Dean, and he rings me up on the morning, and he says, "We're together tonight, aren't we?" This is the lack of organisation of him not having a clue. He said, "We're working together tonight, aren't we?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "What time you setting off?" And I said, "Probably about 1 o'clock." He went, "You what? 1 o'clock? What for?" I said, "Well, it's 2.5 hour drive. And I can't remember the name of this small town just south of Edinburgh, but that's where we were booked for, him and I, on the bill. And whatever it was, it sounded a bit like Billingham. which when he'd seen the booking sheet, never had the sense to look into it to see where he's going. He says, "Oh, I was just going to come up about 5 o'clock. I was going to watch the football, see the results, and then just drive up." He says, "Edinburgh." I said, "Yeah." I said, "We're at Edinburgh." So there we are. Dean was going to set off from Hull at 5 o'clock to come up to Billingham to do a dinner that night. And he's only 150 miles shy of the journey. And he hasn't changed to this day, has he, Mark?
No, he hasn't. No, not one bit. Not one bit.
Another one on the circuit who gets very nervous before a gig. Very nervous, but once he's got... I did his first ever speaking engagement. We were down in Lincolnshire somewhere. And he said to me, "It's my first one, Jeff." And when you think back to that, to where he is now, he's professional, he's polished, he's funny. But I suppose in a way it's a bit like playing football. Until you get on your feet and with a microphone in your hand, you do get nerves, don't you? Even to this day.
Absolutely. Every single gig, it's like an adrenaline thing that you get before a game. When you're thinking about the game. It's when you're speaking, you're thinking about how's it going to go. Hope it's going to go well, and you're trying to assess the audience. It's not just a matter of picking it up and cracking on. It's like you're trying to assess. I like to get to know people before I actually get going. I like to meet people and have a chat and try and build up this reputation where they already like you before you're actually on. And I find that helps. But like you said, Jeff, when you don't get a good one, when you just get a listening crowd and not a crowd that are laughing, you're driving home in the car 2 hours, 3 hours thinking, where did that go wrong? How did that not go too well? It doesn't happen too often, but when it does, it makes you.
I remember years ago when the industry really, really was busy. I remember one year in October, I went away on a Monday morning and didn't come back home till the Saturday. They were doing one every night of the week. And, you'd phone home the morning after a gig. And the missus would say, "How was last night?" "Absolutely superb." They were falling off the seats laughing. It was a great night. Following morning, she'd ring me, "How was last night?" And I'd say, "It was a job of work." She says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Oh, it was a slog." And she says, "Well, did you do something different?" I said, "No." I said, "I told the same stories, 2 nights on the bounce, but different audiences." And, some events you go to, it's a little bit more of at a golf club or something, a little bit more reserved. And then you'll get into a hall where it's the younger audience, all lads. If we were doing one for the 12th man, we'd be over the moon because you'd look around the audience and you'd say, "These lads have gone out for a few pints. They want to enjoy themselves. Other people are there because it's a charity event," and it does affect you. I mean, I did one last week where it didn't go down badly, but the audience don't come alive. Whereas, the previous weekend, I was with Frank McAvenny up in Scotland, and the audience just bubbling. So, but then if it was easy, we wouldn't be on our toes, would we?
No.
I once went to see Dean when he was on in Middlesbrough, and he was a great speaker, and he touched on low times in his life, mental health issues that he had, and I know, Mark, you're sort of you're a big advocate, of helping people out and walking, and do you think that's what a lot of former football players suffer with?
Absolutely. I mean, I know Chrissy Kirkland's done a bit of research into it, where I think the PFA were treating one in 5 people were suffering after the game, and when he looked into it, when people were being open and honest, it was nearer 3, 4 in 5. So it was like, I was really good friends with Gary Speed as well, so I've always thought about why and stuff. And then when I came out of the game, I had a marriage breakdown, and I went the same way. I was in the bed, locked myself in the bedroom for 3 weeks, didn't want to see anybody, didn't want to speak to anybody. I went to Sporting Chance, which helped a lot. So, and I just thought, we got this group of ex-players together, Dean being one of them, who had problems with alcohol. Steve Howie, he'll be quite open about it as well. Chrissy Kirkman, painkillers, because he had a bad back. He was taking tramadol before the bad back was even coming on. So all different kinds of things, marriage breakdowns, financial problems. So we all got together and we thought, let's use social media as a power to get the message. If we, like Jeff said before, once you've been in the public eye, I think people do look up to you. And I thought, if we can start blogging, getting the message out, set up this charity, help people, and that can also get all us together to do challenges, different challenges, and we've enjoyed every minute of it, and it's raised a lot of money and it's helped a lot of people. So you don't have to plaudits, but I must admit, when you become an ambassador of a children's hospice because of your work you've done and provided a children's hospice with a sensory garden, and the Walking's brilliant lads have paid for it by raising the money, it makes you feel proud. So and you get a buzz off it. So it's just little things like that, and it's a kind of buzz that you get when you win a game of football. So
I think one of the biggest reasons for that is, Mark, for say maybe from being about 14-year-old, you're with a group of lads, maybe 15, 20 lads, and then pros, you're training together, you're having, like you say, the story about Incy there and Jason Gavin, bit of crack together, and then once your career finishes, it's not disrespectful, like it's just your wife and your kids, you're not seeing the lads as much. Do you think that's a big part of it, Mark?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Your teammates are your family, and you're all different characters in the dressing room, you know. So there's bubbly ones, there's quiet ones, and all. But your team's your family, and you spend a lot of time together. You're on the road together, you're training together. You want to win a game of football as a team with each other. And it goes literally overnight. It ended overnight for me. My contract was up, couldn't get another club. I was one of the lucky ones because I did my coaching badges while I was still playing. So when I went to Oldham Athletic, dropping down the leagues towards them playing, I become player coach. But when I went on the coaching side, it's different. Yeah. So you kind of become, rather than being taught what to do, you become the teacher. And then you come in charge of setting times, what time the coach is leaving, what time you're into training. And as a coach, you can't get that wrong because players will jump all over it. So that's an added pressure. And I'll be honest, coaching, I couldn't wait to get out of it. I just couldn't. I didn't like it. I only enjoyed the time on the pitch. I was working hours and hours and hours on end, going to watch football matches, going to watch. And I only worked at lower levels. So I was getting paid peanuts as well. And I was doing 60 hours a week. And I thought, right, enough's enough. Luckily, I had this job. I'd already done a little bit of this job. And this job suits my personality. So that's why I've packed in. I've come out of the game, been offered numerous jobs to go back in, but it's not for me anymore. But this job is. So, yeah. And I think that's what it certainly affected me anyway. When I went to Sporting Chance, all they wanted to say to me, like, let's put the pieces together. Why is this happening? Why are you feeling like you are? And literally, I wasn't doing anything. So walking became my niche. So I started to walk. I got a dog. I started to walk, but it was the diary that was the main thing, the day-to-day. So I sit down now on a Sunday and I plan my week ahead. So, and I put it into 3 different categories. Most important, family, work, social. And so I plan my week. So it's like you're planning at a football club. You plan your week ahead. You're building up to a Saturday. So my week is planned for this week, and it don't always turn out like you've planned it, but it's there in place. So my focus is there, and that's basically what sorted me out. Really is something so simple.
Well, yeah, I remember I had a black lab dog, and I used to go walking, and I would send videos on our group chat, and I would try and get your accent right, you know. So as I'm walking, I'm trying to sort of copy your accent, just to sort of like have a laugh on the group chat. But I never got it right.
I was going to say, give it a go, John. We'll rate it out of 10.
No, no, I'll give this one a miss. Mark's incomparable. You know, I can't compete with him.
Well, I can't do your accent either, so we'll call it quits.
Yeah, nice one. Good on you.
Well, one thing you know, us as a you know, fan group, you know, as much as we love our football, we are big on our mental health stuff. You know, we do encourage a lot of people to talk to each other. You know, we say fans that go to football games by themselves, because some fans do. You know, it's their release. You know, come and have a chat with us at half time. You know, we'll talk to you. What was the one message you'd give people out there that are listening, that are struggling a little bit?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Like, you know, it's really important to talk, pick the phone up, not even for yourself. Like, this group that we've got together, we stay in contact. Like, Chris Kirkman texted me today. How was everything? You okay, big man? And like, then there'll become a conversation. And then I'll get off the phone and go, oh, wasn't that really nice of Chris to drop me a lesson? He might have thought that I might not been feeling too good today. And, you know, so I do it all the time. I ring people up all the time who I think could be having a problem, just for a chat. So like we say, the messages are clear. If you struggle, then you talk, and let it out. Let it out. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed to let it out.
No, I couldn't agree more. It's something I'm massive on as well. And Jeff, I'm going to quickly come to you. I know we spoke loads about Mark's career, so I want to ask you about yours. Obviously, you spoke to us. I think it was a couple of years ago. You were last on with us. You know, spoke us. You know, very generous with your time about your career. You know, one question that always gets asked to us about, you know, you getting the FA Cup final as your final game, because we all know you should have got another cup final. But unfortunately, you couldn't get that cup final because we were all there.
I didn't.
But how does that come about? You know, obviously, I know it was towards your retirement. I suppose it's, you know, it's a farewell thing for you. But you know, how do them discussions start for you to get, you know, the cup final game? You know, imagine they start weeks before the actual game itself.
Can I I'll definitely answer that question, but just before, I'm just thinking, listening to what Mark, and I'm very aware of what Mark's done through Walking's brilliant, because all the lads in it, I know them. But this time last Monday, I was asked, just as a guest, to go along to Andy's Man's Club, which is a nationwide organisation now that gives people a platform to go in. And I mean, last week was, I think, World Mental Health Day. And I went, and what an eye-opener it was. But some people, we forget when we're moaning about the Boro not having a forward that can score 30 goals a season. You know, we get upset about things that, in the grand scheme of things, aren't that important. And when you listen to other people who might be sat in the house, you know, I was told male suicide is one of the biggest killers of men, you know, young men. So, you know, just to endorse everything Mark said on that, there are places to go and there are people. And if not, when, you know, instead of just flicking the phone on and looking through more rubbish about football and regurgitating the same things, just have a look through the names in your telephone and think, well, I haven't seen him in a while. And, you know, I wonder if he's all right. He lost his wife a year ago, or you just don't know. So that ability, as you lads do, and what Mark's talking about, I think is very, very important. Sorry to digress, but getting back to your question. Yeah, I mean, the one thing football never has done, there's no sort of, oh, it's Jeff's last season, we'll give him a big game. That doesn't apply, because I think they're fearful that if it's the last game of your career, you might do something, orchestrate something, because you might have a book coming out or something in the near future. But when I got the FA Cup final, yes, it was the last game of my career, but it was sort of awarded on merit from the marks. And because I'd not been on the international list, I was lined up. I'd been told and tipped off that I was getting, well, let's call it, forget the sponsors' names, the League Cup final, as we know it. And on the second leg, I was in the Riverside. We've beaten Arsenal over the two legs, the so-called Invincibles, until they came up against the mighty Boro. And the appointment secretary from the Football League was there, and he come up to me after the game. He says, well, I'm sorry, Jeff, you'll probably have heard the rumour that you were going to get the final. He says, obviously, now Middlesbrough in the final, you're not going to get it. And I said, don't give a damn. And he sort of looked at me what? And I said, I was a Boro fan before I ever thought about being a referee, and I'll be a Boro fan long after I finish being a referee. This is more important to me. As luck had it, not only did Boro get to the final, Boro win it. I refereed at Leicester City on the Saturday, got changed into the car, straight down to Cardiff for a few beers with the lads the night before, and enjoyed the greatest day in Middlesbrough Football Club's history. And then later on in the season, it was over another local. Well, he's not a local lad, obviously. He comes from Southern Ireland, but he was living on our estate. Graham Lee, the jockey, who sadly, as I'm sure most of you be well aware, had an almost fatal injury when, ironically, he'd given up jump riding for the safer option of flat riding. And he won the Grand National on the Saturday, and I'd been invited. It was that was really the start of my after dinner speaking career, because I'd done the Merseyside Sports Personality dinner, and I was speaking at that event. And after the event, they invited me as a guest to go along to the Grand National. Well, Graham Lee won it, 14-1 shot. So that was a good start to the weekend. The Sunday afternoon, I'm refereeing Liverpool Blackburn Rovers, which had been put back a day because of the Grand National. And that went okay. As it turned out, my last ever job refereeing at Liverpool. And then we're coming back on the M62, and we've just going past, the crazy farmer that got the motorway built around his house. We're just going round past there, and it was 7 o'clock on the Sunday night. And the phone goes, and it's the FA appointment secretary. And he told me that I was going to be refereeing the FA Cup final. Well, I nearly ended up in the bloody Farmers Field, to be quite honest. But for once in my life, one of my stories I tell, referees aren't lucky. But that day I most certainly was, or that season, because, if I hadn't have got the cup final, if you appear in big games, and in England, there's nothing bigger than the FA Cup final domestically, it does increase your profile. And, would I have been the sort of name that would be on the after dinner circuit 20 years later? But when you add all that together, missed out on if I'd got the League Cup final, I certainly wouldn't have got the FA Cup final as well in the same season. So the Boro win, and at the end of the season, I get the big one. So right time, right place, and thank God for it. Some great memories.
That's it. I mean, you got both ends of the spectrum. The delight of being a fan, and then obviously the delight of walking out. I think it was Millennium Stadium back then, wasn't it? For the
yeah, and the funny thing was, on the day of the final, I'd been booked by an agent to appear before the game meal and speak to a room full of Bolton Wanderers fans. So I've gone into the room, and I've purposely put a jacket, like a zip-up Anoraki type Harrington jacket on, because I was casual. And I've got on the microphone, just started talking, and I've just turned around and I've said, I said, it's a bit warm in here. I said, do you mind if I take my jacket off? And I've pulled down the zip, and I've got a butter top underneath. I didn't get killed, obviously. I'm still here today. But I went in, and Sam Allardyce was far from happy with Mike Riley, who refereed that game, as you're well aware. And a few weeks later, it was my final season. I was due to referee at Bolton Wanderers, and after the match, said, would you go up to the boardroom? And I got up to the boardroom, and if you come around our house, it's still on the living room table. Beautiful crystal vase, and it's engraved, on behalf of Bolton Wanderers versus Tottenham, blah, blah, blah. And upstairs, the chairman, who's sadly no longer with us now, he said a few words and then handed over to Big Sam. And he said, pity you've got us today. Pity you hadn't got us in the League Cup final. And I said, well, I'd never have got that. He says, no, we all know you're a Boro fan, but you'd have been better for us than that, bleep, bleep, Riley. So Sam was big happy having a Boro fan who went into the Bolton Wanderers supporters bar with a Boro top on. He'd have rather had me running around Wembley. One thing's for sure, the Boro definitely would have won.
Mark, you said that obviously Boro's got a place in your heart. Have you been keeping an eye on us this season, over the last few seasons?
Yeah. I mean, every team I played for 8 teams, so I always look out for the teams that I played for and coached at. So I think.
What are your thoughts on us this season?
Do you know what? I've not seen too many games this season. It's more of like kept an eye on the league table. But I'll put it this way: they're in my last man standing this weekend, and I'm down to the last 3. So I'm certainly on me for a win, and I'm led to believe that there's been some up and down seasons, haven't there? But we've got a chance this season. You'd like to think so? I think got up there, top 6. Yeah, is that the aim?
Should do.
Yeah,
should do. I mean, with the squad we've got, I mean, I think we're having a right go this season. So if we can sort out our inconsistency, we'll be there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, the last couple of seasons, I suppose you could, excuse of, Carrick's experience. He's just getting his feet under the table. Last season, I think every man and his dog had an injury at the Boro. We were absolutely riddled with injuries. It was awful. I don't feel like we've got an excuse this year. I really don't.
No.
Obviously, Jeff, you do a lot of stuff at the Riverside as well. I say you've been there with Bernie as well. Obviously, he does an opinion on how the Boro are doing. But how do you think this season started for us? I mean, compared to last year, it's miles better. But us as a fan group, we feel there's a few points being left on the table that we should have picked up. Really,
most definitely. I mean, I remember seeing them pre-season. I went to Harrogate, and it wasn't the first team, but there were, it was a strong side. And I looked at my watch, and we had our first shot in the 71st minute, and their goalkeeper made his first save in the 76th minute. Then I saw us play the Dutch team at home, and we got 2 penalties in the game, scored 1, missed 1, and 1 was saved. And then, you start the first couple of home games, and I've got this fear, as I touched on earlier, I've just got this fear that we haven't got enough goals in the team. We're playing some lovely silky football, even at West Brom the other Tuesday, where I went with the 12th man on the 12th man bus with the lads, and we could have and should have been out of sight in that game. And, in the last 10 minutes, as a lifelong Boro fan, we've all been there. You're just waiting for them to score the equaliser, because they brought a couple of big lads on up front and they were bombarding our box. And you're thinking, and from what I'm told, Watford was the same. Only this time Watford got the goals and Boro fans were coming away saying, if we'd have only got a point today, we'd have been gutted. We've ended up with nought, and we're playing some nice football. But, my fear with the Boro is like with a lot of teams, they've turned to the Pep way of playing football, where it's more important to have the ball. And we've got a young lad there playing for Scotland whose art is to go past people, to dribble and run. And at West Brom, he was he wasn't getting the ball in the first half. And later on in the game, they were expecting him to keep possession, turning back. We were going down the left flank on the other side, and instead of an overlapping fullback, the minute the fullback got it up wide, he turned inside. Now, we can't rely on the defence, even if we've got a goalkeeper as good as what Mark was there. You can't rely on the defence never to concede a goal, and we just don't score enough. We're killing teams. Sooner or later, we are going to batter someone, I hope. But my fear factor for the season, don't disagree with what anyone said, we should be in the top 6. But I don't see where the goals are coming from. I'm sorry, I just don't see where they're coming from.
That's the bit that's killing
That's
us,
fair
isn't
enough.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit it's killing us because we've got a striker up front in Latte Laugh who ended last season like a house on fire. They say 12 goals in 13 games or whatever it was. You think you bring it back into the season, and it's not like we're not creating chances as well. Twice this season we've had 25 plus shots on goal. It's been very, very rare I've seen Boro teams do that. Watching the team over my time. I remember the times with Tony Pulis where we used to have 6 or 7 shots on in a game.
25 shots.
You know what I mean?
Like a season.
And all of a sudden we've got this flamboyant, exciting football, and the bit we're missing is the bit that we've actually been good at.
Mark, Jeff's just touched on there. Obviously, everyone wants to play the Guardiola way. Obviously, goalkeeping's massively changed in the time that you played to now, with keepers being good with the feet. Do you think you would have adapted to play that way, or?
I'd have been all right. I played centre half, I was captain of South Yorkshire Boys at 15 as a centre half, and the goalkeeper got injured because I was the biggest and the slowest. I got put in goal. And from that day onwards, I never ever moved out of goal. So I was always okay with my feet. Yeah, I had a good left foot. I could ping it. I could pick people out, and that came from the playing at centre back. So that's why I always used to like a diagonal from goal kicks and pick the right winger out when everybody's tucked over to one side of the pitch to try and open up a 1v1 situation, wingers against fullback. So something I worked on a lot. But yeah, I was okay with my feet. Yeah.
Oh, you'd have been sought after now. Never mind, just Alex McLeish looking for you. I think there'd be a host of clubs with a ball-playing keeper.
Aye, there's some good ones though, isn't there? I mean,
yeah.
It's just the way the game's gone, isn't it? It seems really weird when you see a goalkeeper pass the ball in the 6-yard box to invite a press to beat the press, but that's the way the game's gone. And I don't think there should be some teams lower down doing it that can't do it, it causes problems. But it seems to be the way now that everybody tries to play out from the back, whereas we were told, get it as far away from your goal as possible.
Yeah.
If Pep Guardiola plays 4-4-2 on Saturday and does it for the next 3 weeks, the whole league will be doing it. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, everybody follows the leader, isn't it? And if they do it. But before I let you do one big massive plug for Thursday, and obviously try and get them last few tickets sold, what we do each week is we do a bet for charity. We try. We haven't won yet, so don't feel the pressure. To basically put a score together, anytime score, if you can pick one, we stick £1 on it, and if we get some money in, it goes to a charity. Raised £500 last year, did all right. If I can push you first, Mark, if you can, you've mentioned straight away, we're in your last man standing, so put your rate on. If I can push you for a correct score for Saturday.
Yeah, 2-0. 2-0 to the Boro.
Have you got a score in mind? Any idea?
We'll go for the big fella. Is a big fella, will he be playing? With Taff?
He should be.
Laugh,
yeah, he should be.
Laugh, yeah.
We'll go with
There's that many names hard to pronounce them these days.
Jeff, I'll come to you. Same question.
You never, ever ask a Boro fan to forecast the score of a Boro game. I think on Saturday, unfortunately, you talk about football being unimportant. It's just been announced today that the Bristol City manager's going to have a time away from football because he just lost his son, I believe. That's going to, I think, probably have a massive effect on the morale and everything in the Bristol City camp. And it shows that life's far more important than football. But I'm going to be really stupid and say that this Saturday, the Boro are going to take some of their chances. And Mark obviously hasn't seen the Boro play this season because the fannying about at the back we do, I don't think we're ever going to see the Boro keep a clean sheet at home. So I'm going to be really ambitious and go for 3-1 to the Boro.
Any scorer anytime?
Oh, you want a scorer? Well,
possible.
Yes, yeah, 3 own goals, we'd all take it. But no, I think I'm going to go for, and we don't even know whether he'll be playing, but he should be. It's one of these, isn't it, where people have been away on international duty, and when they get back, are they going to be thrown in? I don't know where Riley McGree's. Has he been away with Australia this week, or is he?
Yeah,
See,
Japan at the minute.
oh, well, that's just round the corner, isn't it? You can get the 263 from Japan. Not a problem. I was going to go Riley McGree, but I don't want a non-runner. So I'm going Riley McGree because I think if he's back and he's fit and well, and then if he isn't, I haven't got it wrong, have I? 3-1, Riley McGree, anytime scorer.
Right, so before I let you two boys go, because it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you both. Say, you know, the stories that you're going to sell on Thursday night, you know, especially with the collar off, you can say whatever you want to say as well. You know, all the blue, all the blue that will come out. Jeff, just give it one last plug. You know, to get them last few tickets sold.
Well, in the next couple of weeks, as I said, this week, Thursday evening, Eston Events Centre. You can go onto their website and you can buy tickets from there, or you could actually call into the venue. They've got them on sale in the Eston Labour Club, which is downstairs. Myself as host for the evening, the one and only Mr. Mark Crossley, and the one and only Ted Hankey. And if I can be cheeky, as ambassador of Stockton Town Football Club while I'm on, the following Friday night, we've got Steve Howie and another local lad made good. You might recall a lad called Jamie Owens, who played for Stockton Town and played in the Northern League and other non-league clubs, played for Stockton at Wembley, and is now trying to emulate another great Boro fan, Glenn Durrant, because he's making his way upwards and onwards in the darts world. So we've got the gig this week at Eston Sports, I always get the name wrong, Eston Events Centre, and then the following Friday night at Stockton Town Football Club, and the tickets for that one are available on the Stockton Town website.
There you go.
Brilliant. I'm sure it'll be a fantastic night. Mark, can I just ask you one question before you go?
Yeah.
You're a big fan, I know. What's your favourite Shed 7 song?
Chasing Rainbows.
Is it? Right, okay.
Oh,
nice one.
Right, I will make sure, because at our last event, I know some of you were there, our last event at Eston, I had both Stewie Downing and obviously David Weeder at the end of the night up singing. So now I know which track we need teed up for Mark to sing on Friday evening.
Yes.
I didn't set you up. I didn't set you up there, Mark. I'm a fan of myself, and I just wondered what your favourite track was.
Thanks, John. I'll use that.
And one final thing, Jeff. Obviously, things have come out about your special guest next month. We all love him. He's a massive Boro legend. You might as well give that an ickle plug while you're at it.
Well, it might be too late in the day because we only announced it on Saturday and tickets are going very, very fast. Fortunately, on I think it's the 21st of November, Thursday night, we're not having any support acts because I don't think this man's going to need a support act. Tony Mowbray is going to be my special guest, talking about his recent problems, which puts everything into perspective, and also his life from his early days at the Boro, West Brom, Celtic, Ipswich, his full career. And I don't know whether the people that are buying tickets are going to be excited, but I can tell you, I'm going to be the most excited person in that room because I have worked with Tony once before. And I'll tell you what he said. We did something for Redcar Athletic. And he said, Jeff, he said, I'm not a talker like you. He said, just ask me a question. I give him the mic. I asked him a question and give him the microphone. I didn't get the microphone back for 5 minutes. He is the most passionate person about football that I have ever met. An absolute gentleman. And I know that one is going to be like this Thursday, going to be a tremendous night.
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
There you go. Jeff
Good
Winter.
timing that, lads, because my two were in the same room together, my two boys, and you know what's going to happen, don't you now?
Do you need a referee, Mark?
I need a referee, yeah.
You're going to have to sing him a good night song.
Yeah,
Yeah, get some practice in before Thursday.
I will do.
Lovely. Mark, Jeff,
Nice
I'll
to
let
see
you
you,
both
nice
go.
to see you, lads. All the
Thank
best
you very
for
much.
having us on.
Thank you very much. It's
Appreciate
been a
it, Mark.
pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Cheers.
so much. Cheers, boys. Take it easy.
Ta-ra. Bye.
There you go. Jeff Winter, Mark Crossley. How good was that?
No, it was class, wasn't it?
Spot on, wasn't it? Really good. Spot on. Obviously, before we go, we're going to go through the game on Saturday. Big game.
Yeah.
Again. Start of a really important run of games as well, which is it's going to be it's a big month coming. I feel like this is where the season really settles down. Teams start getting to places where this should be, kind of thing. And that's where I hand over to you.
Yeah, obviously there's our charity bets, like you've said earlier. So it's a big game.
Massive.
Obviously, like Jeff mentioned, thoughts from everyone here concerned to him and his family about the sad events of today. So,
Yeah,
like Jeff said, it puts football into perspective.
Oh, hugely.
All the best with I can't even imagine what you're going through, but yeah, all the best from us lot. I'm going to go for 3-2. Finners as any time.
3-2. Goals all over the shop then.
Yeah, I think it should be a decent game.
Here we go. Go on, 1-1.
In 2 weeks.
Go on then, 1-1. What we go? What we should go score?
Yeah, we'll go 1-1.
Shock on.
Edmondson.
Oh no.
Nearly had it the other day.
I know.
Nearly had it at Watford
Oh,
goal.
don't I know
Nearly
it?
had it.
Don't I know it?
JD?
2-0. Tommy Conway.
Hey, honestly.
If he isn't fit, then I'll go for Aidan Hackney.
Jacko?
Ben Doak 4-2.
4-2,
Yeah,
What a score. What a score.
I know. Be a good price that as well.
It will be a belter.
I know. Bring back Porgan. Anyway, exactly. And on that note, we'll leave it there. Two massively brilliant guests. If you can go on Thursday night, please do. It's going to be a great night. Jeff's nights are so good. So yeah, thank you very much, John. Don, thanks for popping on.
No problem. Cheers.
I'll see you on Saturday. Lads,
Sure.
thanks so much for popping in.
Pleasure.
Aye.
Being good.
Boro.
And yeah, we'll have a chat again next week, hopefully with 3 points under, in the bag. And we're on a roll again because we've got 2 big games again next week. So be seeing you up the Boro. Ta-da.
Up the Boro.
Cheers, lads. Up the Boro.
It's Leo.